government comes in and pounds him. And they say, well, we got another rule, another regulation, another form, more red tape, more this, more hassle. Am I right, Jeff? And then he calls me. I said, well, Jeff, I'm not president. He said, yet, okay? But the fact is that we can regulate these folks to death. So, I'll tell you what I propose. For 1 year, we're going to freeze all federal regulations except for health and safety so our small business people can flourish and hire our families, okay? Number one. Number two, Pat, any regulation more than $100 million, you're going to vote on it in the Congress, and if you don't like it, you'll reject it. Because the people that should make the laws are the ones who are elected, not the ones who are unelected that sit at their desks and try to tell us what to do out here. And I'll tell you, I have a vice president. I will have a vice president. I don't know if it'll be a man or a woman, but whoever it is, they're going to spend their time undoing all the regulations that are choking our ability to grow and have a strong economy and hire our family. And that's what they're going to do. Now they just go to funerals. I'll actually give the vice president something to do, okay? And I wanted to create a people's court. They told me, no, Judge Wapner already has a people's court. But I said, here's what I want to do. I want to have an independent entity that sits right next to the bureaucrats. So Jeff, you can go to somebody who's on your side, not going into the bureaucracy to get them to help you. We'll have somebody that'll fight for you. So Judge Wapner, move over, because we're coming to create a people's court in the federal government so we can be heard, the people. Now, let me talk a little bit about taxes. Our corporate taxes, you wonder why corporations are leaving America? Because their taxes are so darn high, and they can move their corporate headquarters somewhere else and cut their taxes in 3/4. What are we doing? We want these corporations to stay here. And then whenever they do leave and they make profits overseas, they pay taxes, and then we say, oh, well, when you come back to America, we'll tax you again. 40%. What do you think of that? How many times you want to pay taxes, ma'am? You probably don't want to pay them at all. I agree with you. But here's the fact. Let them bring their profits home and stop double taxing them, lower the corporate rate, and give Jeff Gorman an incentive to build more equipment in here so our workers can have more productivity and higher wages. Let's bring the corporations back to America. What's interesting, folks, is yesterday, was it yesterday? I can't remember. We were down in Dayton. You can't believe this. Well, you can believe it. You know how some of these candidates talk about how all the jobs are going to China? Well, down in Dayton, we were able to get the Chinese to invest $500 million in an old auto plant, and we have over 1,000 workers with it's gone on its way growing to 2,000 because we recruited them. And we told the Chinese, you start investing here. We're not going to tolerate you taking our stuff. We expect you to come here. And guess what? They're here in Dayton, Ohio, and helping 1,000 families be able to do well. So the corporate taxes have to come down. And how about if we just simplify our tax code and bring the rates down like Ronald Reagan did, okay? And by the way, was there ever a better couple than President Reagan and his wife, Nancy? You know what she did for him? She's a very smart woman. But she knew who was for her, Ronnie, and she knew who was against her, Ronnie. And let me tell you something. You didn't want to be on the list who was not for Ronnie, okay? You don't want to be on her list either, believe me, because she's my best supporter, and the woman I love to the ends of the earth, my wife Karen. And then finally, how about if we get a roadmap to a balanced budget? And let me tell you that included in that is to take the welfare programs and ship them back to Ohio so we don't have to ask permission of anybody in Washington to design a welfare program that does this. It helps those who can't help themselves, but begins to say to those who know how to help themselves that you need to do it, because it's a sin not to help people who need help, but it's equally a sin to continue to help somebody that needs to learn how to help themselves. To move education back here. We don't need anybody in Washington. They don't even know what the time zone is in Ohio to try to run our schools. Let's run our schools where we live, right at the school board level. Let me also tell you in that regard, these kids have to be trained for the jobs of today and tomorrow, not of the jobs of yesterday. And we need to have an education system that gets kids excited about learning by giving them real-world experience. And I'm going to tell you, this company requires great precision. So you're a kid in school and you got a knack, a little young woman who's got a knack for math. Let her come out here and spend a few hours, 4 or 5 or 6 hours a week with Jeff Gorman. And let him tell her about how important math is in building this company. And see, all of a sudden it will come from something that's theoretical to something that's real. And she will get to see his home, his car, his family, and all of a sudden, the lights will go on. We need to turn our kids on in education. And that's why it's so important we bring the programs back here. And by the way, aren't you glad that we created vocational education in the 7th grade so that everybody doesn't have to have a teacher in college? I don't know about you, but my plumber makes more than any lawyer I know. He's always at my house. But anyway, move education. We're going to move transportation and programs for the poor and health care. And also job training, so we can job train the people the way we know they should be in Ohio. Now, register all that. Federal regs, lower taxes, balanced budget. And I'm going to give you a couple more things to think about. You come home to America as a combat veteran and you're going to get health care anywhere you want it. You're not going to wait in line for somebody to give you permission to take care of yourself. And we don't know this, but in Ohio, when you come home, if you drove a truck from Kandahar to Kabul, Afghanistan, we actually think you could probably drive a truck from Mansfield to Cleveland. We're not going to make you take a test to get a license. We're giving you your license. And we're going to encourage you to use that license. And we're going to give you credit at the colleges and the universities for what you did in the military. And let's face it, the VA has to be significantly changed and run by somebody who we all respect in America. And I will tell you this, at the end of the day, there should be no veteran who doesn't get health care, no veteran who is homeless, and no veteran who is unemployed in the United States. Ladies and gentlemen, by the way, we're going to fix the border too. It's important for us to be able to control the border and get this issue behind us so that we're not tearing each other apart here in this country. It's important to get that done. And for Social Security, we'll save it. We can save Social Security, and I'll tell you, we will have it so that 18-year-olds will also believe they have a better chance of seeing a Social Security check than a UFO by the time they retire, okay? Now, I have to go overseas and visit our friends and tell them that we will have their back. And we will rebuild our military because we need to have the strongest military on the face of the earth. Yeah. Now all these things, All these things I've just mentioned to you, they're going to be bundled up in a package that's going to be called shock and awe. And I will send this package to the United States Congress for approval in the first 100 days of a new administration. There will be no waiting. No waiting. And by the way, I'm going to collect the phone numbers of every mom and dad who has a son or daughter in Congress. I'm going to call mom on her birthday, and she's going to call her son or daughter who's in the Congress and say, don't you mess with that president. I like him. And let me tell you a couple other things. Number one, you want to solve these problems and get these jobs going. It's a moral purpose. Rebuild our military. I'll tell you how we get it done. I don't care whether we are Republicans or Democrats. The first thing we are is we're Americans, and we need to put being an American ahead of anything else. Finally, before I take some questions, you know how you were all wondering when you watched some of those debates? How come they don't call on Kasich? You ever wonder that? Why doesn't he get any time? Why is it when I put on the news I never see him? You know why? Because I represent you. I represent Ohio. And I want you to know I will never take the low road to the highest office in the land. I will run a positive campaign. And I will raise the bar of our country. Will never create a toxic atmosphere where people show up at political events and fight with one another. Yeah. We need to bring our country together to solve these problems, and when we do, remembering that we are Americans before we're Republicans or Democrats, the rest of this century will be youthful and fresh and innovative and exciting. And these kids will look at us and they will thank us for what we've done. One final point. Hire me, I'll go be president. Okay? I'll get this agenda through. But you know, you don't really think, because I know you don't really think, that the spirit of our country depends on a president, or a senator, or a congressman, or a legislator. You don't think that, do you? You know, when I grew up as a kid in Pittsburgh, our hero wasn't the president. Our hero was Roberto Clemente, the great baseball player who played right field. And I only saw my mother cry a couple times. And one of the times I saw her cry was when she came into my bedroom to tell me that Roberto Clemente had been killed in a plane crash on his way to Nicaragua to help people who were victims of an earthquake. You see, he was what we admired. Strong, excellent, fun, worked through injuries, complained once in a while, but just did everything he could possibly do. You see, the spirit of our country, it's in you, man. It's not, it's in me too when I live in Westerville next to my neighbors. It's in you. The spirit of our country is not in some politician that's going to come galloping into Mansfield to fix all of our problems. They should do their job. The spirit of our country is what we believe. What we believe. And I want to tell you that I believe that we were all given a purpose by the Lord. Some young people here today, tonight, in fact, a lot of young people showing up at these rallies. You're made special. Did you know that? No one's ever been like you. Has anybody ever told you this? No one has ever been like you, and no one will ever be like you again. You're special. And you were put on this earth to do something special. You were put on this earth to be a source of good. You were put on this earth to live a life a little bit bigger than yourself. You were put on this earth to be a healer in whatever way you can, whether you become a teacher, whether you're a nurse, whether you're a doctor, or maybe when somebody's being bullied, you stand up for those kids that are being bullied and you invite them into the group. You see, we're never too old to change the world. We have to believe that, because that's what makes such a great difference in the spirit of our country. We have to believe that, and we want to believe it. And I believe that it's true. So I'll go ahead and take care of my job, and if I run into trouble, I'll call you. But let's lift the people of this community, of our neighborhoods, and let's strengthen our families, because that is where the spirit of America resides, in us. You agree? So let's go do it. Okay? Thank you. I did 106 of these in New Hampshire. I've done now, I think I'm up to over 200, and they've all been fun. So please don't screw this one up for me. Way in the back, young lady. Yeah, you. And if you come down and spin the wheel, and if it comes up right, you win a new car. It's right outside. It's Jeff Gorman's car.